All right, let's jump right into this Croatia-Scotland matchup. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, definitely one to watch.
We're going deeper than just, who's going to win, who's going to score. We're talking tactics. We're talking mentality. We're talking about those little edges that could decide the game. By the end of this deep dive, you're going to see this UEFA Nations League clash in a whole new light.
Absolutely. A lot of layers to unpack here.
So we've got Croatia, World Cup finalists,
Yeah.
right? Modric, the magician in the midfield. They've got that experience, that pedigree. And then you've got Scotland, kind of like the up-and-comers, got that underdog spirit, always looking to make a statement.
And they've been showing some real promise lately.
Right. So can they pull off the upset? Well, that's what we're here to dissect. Now, everyone always talks about Modric, and for good reason, he's incredible. But here's a thought. What if he's not at his best? What if, and there's been some talk about this, Brozovic isn't fully fit?
Ah, interesting point.
He's like the anchor of that midfield. Keeps things ticking, wins the ball back. If he's not at 100%, that could really throw a wrench into Croatia's game plan.
It's true, Brozovic often flies under the radar, but he's absolutely crucial to how Croatia plays. He's the one who allows Modric to do what he does best, that creativity in the final third.
Right, exactly. So you think Scotland might try to exploit that?
Yeah.
Maybe a high press, try to force some mistakes early on?
It would make sense. If Scotland can disrupt Croatia's rhythm, especially in those early stages of building up play, that could be huge. It's a lot easier than trying to out-possess a team like Croatia.
Yeah, that's a tall order for anyone.
Exactly. Force those errors, create those transitions. That's where a player like Che Adams can really hurt you with his pace.
Oh, absolutely. Remember that goal he scored against Spain in the Euros qualifiers? Lightning quick. If Scotland can create those kinds of chances, who knows?
Absolutely. It's about playing to your strengths. And Scotland, they've got that in spades with their attacking players.
And speaking of strengths, Croatia seems to find another level when they're playing at home. Those fans, that atmosphere, it can be electric.
Yeah, home advantage in football is a real thing.
But Scotland, their away form, it's been a bit up and down, hasn't it? I think that could play a factor here.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. And it's not just about the crowd, although that can be intimidating. It's that familiarity. Players talk about those subconscious cues they pick up on their home turf. Croatia, they just seem to feed off that energy, especially in big games.
So for Scotland, it's almost like they're not just playing against just 11 players, they're playing against the entire stadium. That's kind of mess with your head a little bit.
For sure. And this is where the mental side of the game comes into play. Croatia, coming off the World Cup success, they've got that target on their backs. The pressure's on to perform.
Right, they're expected to win.
Exactly. Scotland, on the other hand, they can play with a bit more freedom, a bit more of that underdog mentality.
And that can be dangerous.
Absolutely. When you've got nothing to lose, sometimes you play with a different level of intensity.
No fear, right? Just go for it.
Exactly. And that can be really tough to play against.
So it's like a chess match where one side's playing with house money and the other's feeling the pressure to protect their ranking. But it's not just about psychology, right? Both of these teams, they've got managers known for their tactical nous.
For sure. You've got Zlatko Dalic, who's done an incredible job with Croatia, very much about possession, controlling the tempo. But then Steve Clark, he's brought a new level of organization to Scotland, but also that ability to hit teams on the break.
It's going to be a fascinating tactical battle, that's for sure. So you've got these two different styles, right? Croatia, they like to keep the ball almost like they're conducting an orchestra.
Wow.
And Scotland, it's more like, boom, hit you with that quick counterattack.
It's a great analogy. You've got the methodical build-up versus the sudden strike.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where the tactical side gets really interesting. We were talking about Dalic earlier. He's got Croatia playing some really intelligent football. Remember that World Cup qualifier against Russia?
Oh, yeah, tough match.
Russia basically parked the bus, but Croatia, they found a way. Used those wide players to stretch the play, created space for Modric to work his magic.
They're masters at that, finding those little pockets of space between the lines.
Right. It's not just about passing for the sake of it. It's about probing, waiting for that opening.
And that's what makes Scotland's approach so intriguing. If they can disrupt that rhythm, force those rushed clearances, they could have some real joy on the counter.
So instead of trying to match Croatia pass for pass, just make them uncomfortable.
Exactly. Turn those tidy possessions into panicked clearances.
I like it.
Think back to Scotland's win against Denmark. They were relentless with their pressing, forced a few errors, and punished them. Obviously, Croatia is a step up in class, but the principle's the same.
Don't let them dictate the tempo. Make it chaotic.
Exactly. Now, one area where Croatia can really hurt you is set pieces.
Oh, yeah, they're deadly.
They've always had that knack for scoring from free kicks and corners. Scotland, on the other hand, they've been a bit vulnerable defensively in those situations.
Could be a big factor in this match, for sure.
Absolutely. And it's not just about having tall players, it's that delivery. Modric's right foot, it's a wand.
It's true. He can put the ball on a sixpence. So how do you stop it?
Well, you can't give away silly fouls around the box, for starters, but when Croatia does have a set piece, Scotland has to be brave. Can't just sit back and hope for the best. They've got to attack the ball, win those first contacts.
Make life difficult for Croatia. Let them know they're in a game.
100%. It's about that mentality, that desire. Every ball is a battle, and you have to win those individual duels.
So we've talked a lot about what Scotland needs to do.
Mm.
But what about Croatia? They've got plenty of weapons in their arsenal, right?
Absolutely. One thing that immediately jumps out is their threat on the flanks, particularly that left-hand side. Dragic, even though he's not getting any younger, he can still be a real handful.
He's got that experience, knows how to pick a pass.
Exactly. And his understanding with Modric is fantastic. Scotland's right back, whoever that ends up being, they're going to have their work cut out for them.
It's like a chess match, right? You focus all your attention on one area, and then suddenly they hit you somewhere else.
Exactly. And if Scotland focuses too much on shutting down Modric, it could open up space for someone like Kovacic to control the game. He's a fantastic player in his own right.
It's all about finding that balance, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it'll be fascinating to see how Clark sets up his team to deal with that threat.
We talk about tactics, formations, but the game has changed so much, even in the last few years. Data analysis, technology, it's everywhere now.
It's incredible how much information teams have access to these days.
Right? It's like having a whole other team behind the team. So we were talking about data and technology in football, and it's amazing how much it's changing the game. It's like every team has a secret weapon now.
It's true, and it's not just about those fancy stats you see on TV. We're talking about wearable tech, GPS trackers, heart rate monitors, the whole shebang. Both Croatia and Scotland are using this stuff to get a competitive edge.
So it's like having X-ray vision into how the players are performing, right? But how does it actually work in practice?
Well, for starters, it helps coaches tailor training regimes for individual players. So let's say you've got a midfielder who covers a ton of ground every match. The data might show that their recovery times aren't ideal, so the coach can adjust their training load, maybe give them an extra rest day to prevent burnout.
So it's all about that personalized approach, maximizing performance over the long haul.
Exactly. And this data, it's not just useful for individual players, it feeds into the tactical side of things too. Imagine being able to analyze how your opponents react to a high press, their passing accuracy under pressure, their movement off the ball. That's gold dust for a coach.
It's like having a cheat sheet on your opponent, but instead of answers, you get insights, patterns, tendencies.
Exactly. And what I find fascinating is how both Croatia and Scotland are using data in their own way. Croatia, they've got that established system, that possession-based style, and they're using data to refine it, to find those tiny margins of improvement. Scotland, I think they're using it more to punch above their weight, to find those little advantages that can help them compete with bigger teams.
So it's not just about having the technology, it's about how you use it, how you make it work for you.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this matchup so exciting. You've got two teams at the forefront of this tactical and technological evolution, but using those tools to enhance their own unique identities.
So as we head towards kickoff, what's the one thing, the X factor, that you'll be watching for?
For me, it all comes down to that midfield battle. Can Scotland disrupt Croatia's rhythm, force them into those hurried passes, those rash decisions? If they can get Modric off his game, it could be their best chance to snatch a result. But if Croatia's midfield clicks, controls the tempo, well, it could be a long night for Scotland.
It's going to be a fascinating tactical battle, a real clash of styles. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about the players, the tactics, the mental game, even the role of technology in modern football. But at the end of the day, that's the beauty of this sport, isn't it? You can analyze it, dissect it, but there's always that element of unpredictability, that moment of magic that can change everything. So enjoy the match, folks. And remember, sometimes the most important factor in football is simply who wants it more. Until next time, keep exploring, keep debating, and most importantly, keep the love of the beautiful game alive.